Number 9. Cetotherium. Whales and sharks aren't known to be the best of friends, as you can imagine with large sea creatures that control certain territory in the water. Thus, one side tries to defeat the other, or they constantly fight over territory, like with orcas and great white sharks in modern times. How does this pertain to the Megalodon's era? The Megalodon was massive, bigger than any shark today, so surely there wasn't a whale that could take it out way back then, right? Wrong, as the Megalodon had an enemy in an extinct whale species called the Cetotherium. In terms of timeline, the Cetotherium lived between the mid-Miocene period and the early Pliocene period, meaning from over 10 million years ago to a mere 2 million years ago, which is also when the Megalodon lived. It's not unreasonable to think that these two species could have met up and fought. Now, if you look at the length of the Cetotherium, you're going to find a problem. Mainly, it was only 50 feet long. As such, the Megalodon, which had powerful teeth and a hunter's instinct, was even larger than it, at a massive 65 feet. So how is it that a whale could contend with a big shark? Well, it's because they actually had teeth back then, really big ones, as opposed to baleen plates. That meant it could take a bite out of the Megalodon if it needed to. Baleen plates are used for filter feeding, but real teeth could do damage against the Megalodon. They also live near the surface of the ocean and thus would usually be out of range of their foes. Megalodons were scary, no doubt, but knowing a whale with giant teeth loomed in the waters close to the ocean's surface, a pod of those mammals would have given the big shark a scare, that's for sure. Number 8. Zygophyseter Varolai. The Zygophyseter Varolai has a more simplistic nickname if you're having trouble pronouncing it: the killer sperm whale. And one look at its teeth will show you why that name is rather accurate. Just as fascinating is that this impressive beast wasn't even known about until 2016. That was the year when a fossil of this whale was found in Italy, and it certainly astonished a lot of people, especially scientists and biologists. As for why it's called a killer sperm whale, it's because it's related to, and somewhat resembles, both orcas and sperm whales. So when did this particular whale exist? About 7 to 11 million years ago, well before early humans even started to evolve. Due to its body type, it's believed that the Zygophyseter Varolai was a master of using echolocation with regard to finding and hunting prey. When it found them, it would then latch onto them with its teeth, which could range from 6 to 10 inches. However, because of their small body size of 22 feet, it's believed that the Megalodon would have come after them if it was hungry. To counter that threat, because of their echolocation skills, it's very likely that they would have sensed the shark coming and prepared for battle. It wouldn't have been one-sided, especially if these smaller animals ganged up in a pod. A whole gang of them with all their sharp teeth could have definitely done some damage against the Megalodon. Think of it like a pack of wolves against a grizzly bear. Plus, considering that this was a creature that could have had true area awareness and not let go when it sank its teeth into its prey, that's pretty scary right there. Number 7. Leopleuridon. The Leopleuridon was a big creature in the water, but there is actually some debate between scientists as to whether this massive creature was only 20 feet or actually 50 feet long. The general consensus is about 21 feet at a maximum, but other scientists have looked at it and believe it to be much bigger. Regardless of size, this reptile of the oceans was known because of its rather terrifying teeth. Its mouth was full of long, sharp, and pointy teeth that it would use to eat prey quite swiftly, making it a scary beast by any stretch. Obviously, if you were swimming in the water when these animals roamed, you would have been a quick meal for them. And don't think you could have gotten away or dodged them because of some diving equipment. After doing some research, scientists feel that the Leopleuridon may not have been the fastest creature in the ocean, but it was rather nimble and agile and able to pull off some quick bursts of speed because of the shapes of its fins. That makes it a true ambush predator. If you feel like you've heard of that before, it's because crocodiles and alligators are known for their first strike capabilities, and the Leopleuridon seems to have shared that ability too. So this was a beast in the waters that was fast, agile, and could strike before you knew what was happening to you. What's more scary than that? Number 6. Basilosaurus. Despite its appearance, the Basilosaurus is actually very closely related to a whale. and it was a very aggressive one at that. Plus, just like whales, the Basilosaurus was huge, with its average size being about 50 to 55 feet in length based on scientific estimates. The Basilosaurus also had razor-sharp teeth. Its body was very fluid, so in some ways, when it moved, it was more like a snake. A gigantic water snake, big enough to swallow you whole. Admit it, if you saw something like that swimming towards you in the water, you would probably just give up and hope that it ate you quickly. This kind of swift, wriggling movement isn't what you would tie to a whale-like species at all. There is a catch to this, however. The Basilosaurus apparently wasn't that smart, and didn't have many of the features modern whales have. Regardless of these faults, it was a mighty predator and loved to feed on both fish and sharks, which obviously makes it something that the Megalodon would have paid attention to, especially since the creatures were arguably about the same size. Number 5. Zygophyseter Varolai. The Zygophyseter Varolai has a bit more obvious and startling nickname that might give you pause: sea scorpions. Apparently, this sea scorpion was about 8 feet long. That's a bit alarming when you compare it to the largest scorpion in the world today, which sits at only about 10 inches long. Doing the math, that means that the Zygophyseter Varolai is about 10 times as big as the biggest scorpion in our world today. What's more, while most modern scorpions have armor in their own right, this creature had much more, protecting it from those that would try and eat it, especially large fish. Although the Megalodon and this terrifying animal never coexisted, if they did, then the giant shark would have known to steer clear of this bug, or it would have been in for an unpleasant surprise, more than likely. Plus, like regular scorpions, these beasts had tails that they used to strike out at enemies, as well as claws to snap at foes who got too close. As for what happened to these sea scorpions, there was an event called the Permian-Triassic extinction. That's before the extinction event that took out the dinosaurs, but it was just as devastating. It was an event so terrifying and powerful that it actually wiped out 90% of life on Earth, and these gigantic sea scorpions were in that 90%. If you're wondering why this scorpion is scarier than the Megalodon, it's a massive scorpion that lived underwater and was 10 feet long. Humanity honestly dodged a bullet in that these creatures went extinct and never got this large again. At least, not that we know of. Number 4. Mauisaurus. The Mauisaurus was a 66-foot-long creature that used to reside in the waters of the ancient world. The creature was actually named after the Maori god Maui, who played a big part in their mythology. You might know him from the Disney movie Moana, where he was voiced by The Rock. But the reasoning for the naming of this creature was that it actually had its bones found near the island of New Zealand, where Maori traditional culture is rooted. The thing that was actually very impressive about this creature was its massively long neck. Sometimes the neck alone could have been 49 feet long. So that means that over 2/3 of this creature's body was just its neck. It makes you think, if it were alive today, maybe it could be a ridiculous social media influencer like certain other long-necked characters out there. What's more, because of the length of its neck, it likely had many vertebrae to help it stay mobile. This has led scientists to believe that the Mauisaurus could have been very snake-like in its movements. And if that's true, it might have been able to snap at prey that came near it without much effort. Whether that puts it on equal ground against the Megalodon is unclear, but considering its long neck, you wouldn't want to mess with something with that long of a reach. Do you know of any other long-necked social media stars who would try to take on the Mauisaurus? What do you think would happen? Let me know in the comments down below. Then remember to subscribe to The Biggest if you haven't already for more intense videos. Number 3. Ramfosuchus. In the modern world, crocodiles have been documented to be pretty long, with many getting over 20 feet in length. But in the prehistoric world, there was a crocodile species that was able to get much longer than that, the Ramfosuchus. To be clear, the fossil record for the Ramfosuchus is much more incomplete than you might think. In fact, there's no complete fossil for the creature, but enough has been found to paint a good picture to show what it would have been like, including its length, which is an alarming 36 feet. That's well over 30% more than the largest crocodile to have ever lived in the modern world. I don't think even a mighty Megalodon would have wanted to tangle with this croc. One of the biggest things to separate Ramfosuchus from modern crocodiles is its ability to swim like a true predator of the oceans. This creature was quick, and it used its long tail to help guide it through the waters and make quick turns. which is good because it's very likely to have done battle with megalodons during its life on Earth. After all, they hunted the same food groups, they lived during the same time period, and they probably would have been in the same hunting grounds at times, which would have caused conflict. While the Megalodon was big, the Ramfosuchus had speed, and its snout was so long that it could have used hit-and-run tactics to get shots in on the massive shark. If a group of them teamed up, they could have probably taken down one of the big sharks. And frankly, any kind of croc that was that big must have been very scary. Number 2. Helicoprion. There are many reasons to talk about the Helicoprion, but what sets this shark apart from others, both past and present, was that it has a deformed spiral mouth that was actually incredibly terrifying. As you can see, the Helicoprion was a shark that had a mouth that went inward, making it resemble a circular saw of sorts. What has made this so special in terms of the shark community is that no other shark in the past or in the present has had this kind of special mouth. This unique evolutionary feature has many curious how this evolutionary matter came to be. The Helicoprion honestly wasn't as big as many sharks, though. In fact, its average size was about 15 feet, which again puts it on the small side of sharks' average sizes. However, despite its small stature, it was very hard to kill, for it was one of the 10% of life on Earth to have withstood the Permian-Triassic extinction. If it had survived that massive extinction, could it have survived an encounter with the mighty Megalodon? What do you think? But what might be the most ironic thing about this shark is that there is some debate on what it ate, and whether it was as vicious a predator as other shark species. It obviously wouldn't have eaten like other sharks, but how different was it? And why did its mouth get shaped like that? The mysteries about it continue. Number 1. Leviathan Melville. A lot of these ancient creatures would have been weaker or less aggressive than the Megalodon, but this big daddy of giant undersea creatures would not have been among them. This gigantic beast is called the Leviathan Melville. It's a being that has been labeled as the most aggressive whale species ever to exist. The only real modern equivalent to the Leviathan Melville is the Sperm Whale. Unlike the Sperm Whale, though, the Leviathan Melville had teeth that were over a foot long. With that size of mouth and teeth, they attacked all kinds of creatures in the sea, including large sharks, and they even went after other whales. As noted, this was an aggressive whale, and it would seek out prey rather than wait for them to come to it, like modern whales of our world today. If you're curious about the name of the creature, it was named in part by the legends of the Leviathan, including the one that comes from the Bible, and the other part inspired by the legend of Moby Dick, written by Herman Melville. It's also said, though not proven, that the Leviathan Melville could have been a rival to the Megalodon, and given that some think it could have reached 57 feet in length, it would have had the size and the ability to take on the legendary shark head-on. And that's terrifying. Thanks for watching. What did you think of this look at the creatures of prehistoric oceans that were as scary, if not scarier, than the Megalodon? Which of these creatures had you never heard of before and were surprised they existed? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time, right here on The Biggest.